You are looking live at a daily chart of the Nasdaq, which had its worst day since December of 2022. The index fell 655 points or 3.64%, and the volume was a little heavier, 13% above, the average 50-day volume. For the index, you can see it made its high here on July 11th of 18,671, then reversed lower that day, went sideways for a few days and sliced its 10 and 21 in the same session. July 17th, tried to rally back up. This is Monday, which was the kind of like the oversold bounce. Those are always, kind of unhealthy when you see these oversold bounces, but it came up to its 10 on Tuesday and then fell out today following the earnings reports from Google and Tesla. So the index is now 1% below its 50, and that's why we always keep track of the moving averages, because it wasn't that long ago where it was, I think it was this day, 8.9% just on July 10th, 8.9%, and 2 weeks later, the 24th, it's below it. So the rising 50, it's still, this is where, you have to rely on a little bit of a, I don't know how you call it, little instinct, and not just, first of all, below the 50, I'm more cautious, right? I mean, I'm out of most of my stuff. Most of the leading stocks are below their 50, and, you sell those. And so everybody's, kind of selling their stocks. But at some point, you might get a little bit of a rally back up, an oversold bounce again, which could trick you into, getting heavy. So I wouldn't get heavy back into it until, it proves itself, it makes a bottom and starts rallying. Maybe something like we had here on the prior rally here in March. It sold off in April. We had that capitulation there on the 19th and then rallied higher. So it was below its 50 for about 9 days here before rallying back through. Might have been more than 9 days. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 2 weeks. And then it rallied back through and it got back on track. I'm not saying it's going to do that exactly. It could do what we had here back in last July, August, and September, is this 3 legs down where it, traded below the 50, then tried to rally back up, sold off again, and rallied back up to it, got rejected, and had that 3rd leg down. So we're kind of in an area where, I always ask myself before getting too heavy in the market, has the index proved itself? And at this point, you'd have to say no. This is red flag time, trading below the 50. You cannot get heavy into this thing. And there's still going to be stocks to trade. There's still stocks set up, but you just got to me, I think you got to trade quicker. You got to take profits quicker. You can't just hang around and try to swing trade for a couple of weeks, because there's going to be sellers coming in and selling the stocks with the index, and there's just a lot of sellers out there right now for whatever reason. I don't want to lay blame on Google or Tesla. It was just time for, the index to correct. So let's take a look at the QQQs. If there's 3 Qs, it'll work, Marty. All right. And I just wanted to point out that this is already, you can see it's below its moving average, already 8% off its highs from that July 11th high. That's a pretty sharp move, 8% in 2 weeks for a big exchange traded fund like that. This is more concentrated of the Mag 7 stocks, and it's 1.9% below its 50, so doing much worse than the Nasdaq. So you can see that they're selling these mega cap tech stocks. We've known this for a while, and the smaller caps and the mid caps were doing better, but even those got hammered today. Anyway, let's go to well, since I mentioned the small caps and mid caps, this is the Russell 2000 ETF IWM, still above its 10 EMA, so way healthier than the Nasdaq. 0.5% above, but got a little bit ahead of itself. You can see this big sharp rally, and now it just pulled back to its moving average. That looks pretty good in comparison. The S&P mid cap 400, this one pulled back to its 21 today. A little bit of damage here, nearly 2%. So we'll see if it finds support there at the 21. And then the S&P 500, that looks a lot like the Nasdaq because it's got those a lot of those mega cap tech stocks that are closed right at its 50 today. So it's with the Nasdaq 1% below the 50, this is doing slightly better. And then the Dow Jones, it had some stocks like Johnson & Johnson, United Healthcare do well today. So this one is just a tick below its 21 here, essentially at its 21. So it's holding on a little better than most. Yeah, but with the Nasdaq having its worst day since December of 2022, trading below the 50, have to be more cautious here. I'm going to go through just some of the Mag 7 stocks just for the heck of it. This is Apple. This is the strongest of the group. It's kind of like more of a defensive name where, they'll just kind of plow into this one as just playing defense, a flight to safety, if you will. Microsoft, not as lucky. This one sliced its 50 with heavy volume, 2.3% below its 50. But you need to be, flexible here. You need to have your head on a swivel because they could report strong earnings and rally back up real quickly. So that's why I say right now is where you really have to pay attention and yeah, just be flexible and don't get too dogmatic and, the market sucks and we're not going anywhere and it's going to be terrible for the next 3 months. Don't get into that mindset. Always be open-minded and flexible that anything can happen in the market, and it usually does. Google, I mentioned Google, is their earnings, they weren't that bad. Just, the bar is pretty high. The ad revenue is slowing, so that's going to affect Meta platforms when they report next week. And then YouTube, they didn't hit their numbers on YouTube, but overall, it wasn't a horrible report. You can see down here, 35% earnings growth, 14% sales growth. It's been 11, 13, 15, 14. It's not the end of the world here for Google. It'll survive. It'll settle down and then it'll find its way. It'll probably form a base and you just got to keep watching them. I mentioned Meta. Yeah, I think Meta's going to be in trouble with their earnings next week. But if it sells off prior, maybe the expectations will be tamped down a little bit and we can get not such a reactive move in Meta when they report next week on the 31st, next Wednesday. Amazon has been below its 50. It wasn't down as much today, not even as much as the index, 3%. But below the 50, that's the dark side right there. I don't want anything to do with this, but still watch it. They're going to report August 1st, which is next Thursday, I think. And it could rally back through its moving averages. So right now you just want to keep an open mind and be flexible. Tesla reported last night. Tesla's call was kind of a mess. It was all over the place because everybody thinks it was a car company and Elon's trying to pivot to power generator, which is great, and robo taxis and FSD and robots and that's kind of a long ways off. So it's kind of pie in the sky stuff, and Wall Street's not buying it. Down more than 12% today. It's a growth stock with no growth. So it's priced like a growth stock, but it has no growth here. You can see the numbers down here, these big red numbers, lagging EPS, sales growth of 2%. So that's not something that I would want to mess with. I'm surprised it's really above the 50. It's doing better than most of these mega cap tech stocks, but we'll see what happens in the next couple weeks. I think that one's due for a big haircut, but we'll see. NVIDIA dragged down the semis today. Actually, the earnings report from the Semiconductor Texas Instrument was pretty good, but it didn't help. NVIDIA closed 3.2% below the 50. That's close enough for me to, I don't know. I sold NVIDIA today. I have mixed feelings about this. I wanted to hold on to it, but man, that's 3.2%. It's a pretty big number. And so I always have the right to buy it back. And if it rallies back up, I can buy it. But this is just too much weakness for me. And with the index doing what it's doing, I'm just going to let this thing settle down and let it play out. So anyway, There was a lot of blood in the streets, a lot of damage today. I'm going to go through some of it. I'm going to go down that negative road, but always come back on the positive path because we got to be positive here. Positive things happen to positive people. This is AMD, and I'd mentioned that was right sitting there squatting at its 200, and today it just fell right below it, 5.6% below this 200. In a clear downtrend, they report on the 30th, which is next Tuesday, I believe. So, yeah, it was down 6% today. So, AMD this looks awful. AVGO had the 10-for-1 stock split. It sliced its 50 as well, 2.2% below the 50. That's the dark side for me. I don't really want to entertain stocks that are showing that type of weakness. There's just too many sellers in there. ARM is another one that pulled back to its buy area here, and then today fell out, and it's below its 21. Yeah, 4.8% below the 21. It's still above the 50, but I don't really want to participate in stuff like that. Just let it settle down. This is a pretty wild stock, down 8% today. It could be up 8% tomorrow, the way the market's going. As Peter Lynch said, you'll make more money with your guts in the market than with your brains. One of his quotes. Tower Semiconductor bucked the trend today. It was up nearly 4%. It probably had earnings. I didn't even bother to look. But you could see the sell-off here in the morning. Whoop, got the old okey doke. Everybody selling off, and then buyers came in. And it was up, like I said, more than 4%. So good for Tower Semiconductor. Not all is lost in the semiconductor space. Anyway, probably had news. I didn't even look into it. They reported earnings this morning. Pretty good earnings report. You could see the sales and earnings growth, 13% sales, 46% earnings growth. But the market's just selling this stock. It rallied up to its 50 and then fell out today. So just forming a base here. Did nothing wrong, but it went a long time without forming a base. So now it's forming a real big base. So that's healthy longer term. And, just got to let that thing settle down. SMCI, man, this is starting to look like it's just so far beneath the 50 here. And it looks like it's got a date with the 200, but, we're just going to have to wait and see. They don't report till August 6th. If you look at the weekly, this could be in that stage 4 decline. You can see the many stages along the way, then this kind of stage 3 area. Now it's starting to break down. Could be in the stage 4 decline. AMD as well could be in that stage 4 decline, which would not be good for our bull market in the semiconductor space. And then DELL, another hardware name that just one way lower in a downtrend. When the short-term moving averages cross over, the longer term, that's that's not good for if you're long the stock. Not good for shareholders. So DELL looks horrible. I guess that's a technical term. Just in no man's land between the 50 and the 200. So can't do anything with that. The data storage space has just been murdered. This is Micron. They reported solid earnings. This thing went up to 157. Now it's at 110. I mean, this is just in a very short period of time, 30% off its highs, despite accelerating earnings growth. All a company can do is deliver the earnings, and Wall Street will have to figure out where the valuation is. This is Pure Storage below the 50, tried to rally up. Now today fell out. So the earnings report from Seagate was good, and it rallied 4%, but it did not carry any weight with any of the other names in the group. They're just selling here. This is Western Digital, more selling below the 50. You can see this is a common theme, and it gets kind of old. So there's one more group that I'm going to show that I'm going to go down the positive path. Well, semi-positive. Anyway, this is Lamb Weston down 28%. This is a French fry maker. All the McDonald's, all the high-end, Maestros, Fleming's, everybody sells French fries, except for Chipotle, they don't. But anyway, they were saying that the consumer's slowing. I don't know if it's, they're just balking at higher prices, or it's, GLP-1 drugs are having its effect, but people are just the consumer is slowing in this restaurant space. So that's what their story. And Wall Street responded by selling their stock aggressively today. Shake Shack, this thing's been, on a downtrend for a long time, so no surprise today. Slice it's 50 and it was down 5.5%. Brinker, which had been this has been on a heater surfing, the Kelly Slater type stock, supported the moving averages, made that high on June 25th, and it's been selling off ever since. How about that? That's Brinker International, EAT. CAVA, which I think they report here pretty soon, August 13th. This one sliced its 50. The moving averages, short-term moving averages below the the longer term. So that's a no-go, avoid for me. But all these restaurant stocks are being sold now. Sweet Green was the leader. This one sold off before most of them, except for maybe Shake Shack. Below the 50, in between the 50 and the 200. I mean, there's nothing to do here with this one, but just, if you're interested, watch it. But there's no way I would be buying that thing right here. Wingstop. I've never been to Wingstop. I imagine they'd sell French fries. Sliced to 50, stayed below it for what? 9-10 sessions, tried to rally up and now fell out 3.8% today. Kind of like the Nasdaq. And then Bros. Bros had a significant day today because it sliced its 50. It did that the other day, then rallied back above it, and now below it, 4.6% below the 50. So not looking too good for Bros, but they're going to report earnings on the 7th, and we'll just see what they have to say. I have a feeling they're going to have a good report. You can see it's pretty wild stock, how wide the daily bars have been recently for Dutch Bros. Okay, I did mention I'm going to get to the mixed positive. XLE, Exxon and Chevron are 40% of the XLE. It climbed above its 50 today. This is Exxon, CVX. This is kind of a flight to safety too. They pay big dividends, these big, slow battleships. This one is Chevron, bounced off its 200 today. Not much of a bounce, but at least they were positive. Weatherford reported, and here's the bad side. I said it was mixed, down 9% following their report. And AROC is in the machinery equipment as well, so it kind of got pulled down a little bit with Weatherford. They're going to report on the 29th. It just pulled back to its 21 though, so that one's actually nearing a buy point. After breaking out, now it's returned to the pivot area. AROC. Big sellers here though on this pullback. That's a heck of a pullback, and the selling in the market has been pretty aggressive recently. So be careful out there. All right, I did say I was going to get to some positive stuff. It was positive for a while, but oops, ended up lower today. JP Morgan, the big bank, lower. HBAN, the small bank. Okay, well, it's giving back some, but it has a lot to give back. NWBI, another small regional bank. This one was up, made a new high, finished lower today. So my script is not working here. I thought I was going to have something positive here at the small banks, but looks like they all fell out here towards the end. FHM. Let me see. San Francisco BS. How about that? And that one pulled back today. I know these were up during the session. Yeah, sold off towards the end. Okay, that's all right. SF, they've got a lot to give back. They've had big moves. This is a Stifle, and this one had that buy point around 84, so it's still near the buy area. Had a nice day today. 2%. It was up higher than sold off into the close, like just about everything else. The algos turned the sell switch on and never turned it off today. Just selling all day long into the close. Let me see. Oh, FI, they rang the bell at the closing bell today. This stock looks like it's near a buy point too. It's up 2.5%. It looks really good. They don't have earnings for a long time, so maybe that one will be added. A couple other ones that were doing good with the utility. The utility names were strong today. This is Duke Energy, up 1.3%, and looks like it's in a nice uptrend there. Southern is another one. This one broke out and now trading higher, showing strength. ATO. is another one. Wow, broke out, trading higher. That looks pretty good. And then AEP, this is a pretty large one here, 50 billion market cap. Just recently broke out of this base here, utility, electric power. So that the utilities did well. Some of the oil did well. Some of the banks did well. But what did really well was the medical hospital group, managed care. This is Tenet Healthcare. THC was in this little flat base here, broke out, but closed at 19% of its daily range. So that's not really what you want to see. But considering the market weakness, you can see it ran up and then sold off all day. And that's pretty much the profile of most stocks today, where they started lower and just went lower all day. Or if they started higher, they sold lower. That was the trend, lower, like Spotify made a new high and then just fell off. HCA is another one in this group. This is a 90 billion market cap stock, just recently broke out of a base, had an inside day today, but was up 1%. So keep your eye on that one, 335 buy point area. So HCA Healthcare, the healthcare group, the utilities and the oil and gas all, were the strength today, and some of the defensive names. BKD, one that I hadn't really heard about. It's kind of a small, market cap, 1.5 billion, but it broke out of a cup with handle pattern recently and starting to trend higher. I know it's below $10, but hey, I'm just pointing it out. Just saying. ENSG is a Ensign Group, 7.7 billion market cap. You can see this pattern here, trading tight within the base, pulling back to moving average, and bam, blasts off higher, pulls back to the 10, finds support. Now it's up the last 3 days. So that's classic stuff. And you can see the group is number 3 group out of 197 industry groups. PNTG is another one in the group. This is medical long-term care. The boomers are dying off, sorry to say. And the medical long-term care is doing well. Nobody gets out alive, right? So anyway, kind of morbid, but those stocks are doing well. Just pointing it out. Also, Lockheed Martin, I talked about this yesterday, how it closed yesterday at 97% of its daily range, and a hammer candle after the breakout. And that's what you want to see on a breakout. And then so it followed up today with a nearly 3% move. It was up higher, but closed, like everything else, closed a little lower today. Still, nearly a 3% move. There's okay, so it moved higher, then sold off into the last couple hours. Not bad for Lockheed Martin. But I talked about GE yesterday and how GE had that the closing range wasn't as strong as Lockheed Martin, 59% as opposed to 95 or 96, whatever it is. And what did it do today? It came down and it tried to fill this gap here, 162.94. You see that? And the low today is 162.05. So it filled that gap. The high on the 22nd, which was Monday, was 162.94. It gapped higher and left the gap there. And today it just came down and filled that gap. So be mindful of that, because it pulled back to its moving average, filled the gap. I wouldn't be surprised to see this one, I don't know, maybe have an inside day tomorrow. I'm not saying it's going to get back up to 172, but it probably bounce off that moving average. So GE could be on our ready list tomorrow, just for a trade. Like I'm saying right now, I think you want to trade a little quicker, take profits quicker, and just get in and out, because the market's, it's in a downtrend and it's correcting, and it could correct. Like I just showed you, the QQQs are down 8. They could go down 10, 12, 15%. So you got to wait till they settle down. Don't get too aggressive. All right. Another one in the group is Raytheon. I think they report tomorrow, the 25th. Yeah, and so it's trading tight within a base. What I'm looking for Raytheon is it to report pretty decent earnings and trade above this little downtrending line here. And if it can do that, I'm interested in Raytheon, especially if it can get above 108 tomorrow. So I'm watching Raytheon tomorrow. FTAI reported this morning. It's been such a long day. I think it was this morning. And they responded nicely. Once again, It was much higher. I was looking at it earlier, and then yeah, sold off into the close, like just about everything else. So not big news there. But anyway, the defense stocks, aerospace defense look pretty strong right now. And then I got to go to the drugs. I haven't been showing the drugs this week because they've been pretty weak. This is Protagonist Therapeutics making a new high today, up nearly 10%. So you got to like that action. You can see these medical ethical drugs are really falling off. They were a top group not too long ago with Novo Nordisk and Merck and a couple of these other ones. And you can see the earnings here. Earnings line heading north, the stock's heading north. So what do you know? Vertex, watching Vertex today, and it was just kind of flat. Flat on a daily when the Nasdaq is like this is good. But like I say, this stock kind of marches to the beat of its own drum. So it doesn't surprise me to see it flat while everything else is dying around it. All right. Catalyst Pharmaceuticals. This is near a buy point here. This made a new high today and then pulled back like everything else. The new high was 17.99. So let's see if it can get above that 18 level. You know, if the market was better, I'd put this on too, but you know, you can see the weakness there into the close, like everything else. I'm going to let that one go. NBIX, this one drives me nuts. You can see why. Just up and down, up and down, up and down. Can't make any progress. Once again, this one was flat today in a pretty weak tape, a very weak tape. ALGN. This is Ligand Pharmaceuticals. Broke out of a base, making new highs, starting to trend nicely. It is trending nicely. And I have to mention EBS. I don't know why this thing was going so crazy today, but we'll take that, right? Had this big move, pulled back to its 10, found support and blasted higher the last couple days. And then Eli Lilly, if you're talking about drugs, you got to mention Eli Lilly. This thing's hanging on to its 50 by a thread. It closed 0.3%. To me, I wouldn't sell it just because it closed 0.3%. The other day on the 18th, it closed 0.7, rallied back above. It was 2% above yesterday, and now it closed, 0.3% below tonight. But, if you've held this stock for a long time and it's just at its 50, I think you can hang on to it and just let it play out. Obviously, if it slices it with volume, that's another story. But I could see this thing finding support here and bouncing. They don't report earnings till the 8th, so it's still a couple weeks away. And that's a long time in market time. A lot can happen in that time. Anyway, thank you for watching. That's it for me, except for I lie. I have one more thing. We have some earnings. In honor of the great Steve Jobs, one more thing. I don't think Steve Jobs ate burritos from Chipotle, but certainly I don't think he did at all. He's a vegetarian, right? But they reported after the bell, this thing was up like 10 or 12%. And now I look at it, it's only up 1%. So you never know what goes on in conference calls. They did have a nice earnings report. They had a stock buyback program. Same store sales were better than expected, blah, blah, blah. So Chipotle, I don't know. I don't know what it's going to do tomorrow. It's really moving around a lot in after hours. Like I said, it was up 10%. Now it's 2%. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. You cannot rely on after hours. Another retail name is Ford. Whoo, this is getting hammered after hours, down nearly 12%. I didn't see the details of it. I know they missed on revenues or earnings, one or the other. They missed on I think it was sales. So anyway, gonna get a haircut tomorrow at Ford. All right, some of the better performing ones in the after hours is a KLA. KLAC is semiconductor stock, so this might help. This is a 100 billion market cap stock, and it's up nearly 3% after hours. Not real active like some of the other ones. ServiceNow up 6% after hours. I did not look at the report. I'll have all of this in the morning. The ones that are moving, 3, 4, 5%, I'll have some information on those moving up or down. If they're flat, I'm not really interested in them. All right. IBM reported after the bell. I thought it was a good report. Yeah, and it's up 3%. So trading at 190 after hours. So you got to like that if you're, a big blue fan or a big blue shareholder. This does look like it wants to get back to 200. You can see this is trading tight within a base, pulling back to moving average. This is textbook stuff. Let's see a breakout tomorrow and a run towards 200. That would be welcomed in this market. CLS reported. I have no idea what they reported. It's up 2% after hours, so maybe it can rally back through that 50 tomorrow. It's 4.7% below it. So VKTX, I did see that they up 10% after hours. They phase 3 trial, that's it, for their weight loss drugs. I know the weight loss drugs have been hammered recently, but you know, to me this is just these guys don't have any sales. But when you see something like Novo getting hammered like this, it's probably not going to stay down here forever. They report on the 7th, so at some point this thing's going to be a buy. It's 6% below its 50 on that day. Now it's 5% below. Yeah, I wouldn't think these would stay down there forever. The GLP-1 drugs, when they report, it's gonna show what the demand is for these stocks. And VKTX, I don't know what they said after hours besides the phase 3 trial, but it's up nearly 10% after hours. Edwards, Life Sciences, medical product stock, ouch. Looks like a haircut, down 13% after hours. That's no bueno. Las Vegas Sands, okay, not bad, down 2% after hours. We'll see, maybe that'll turn around. This is Newmont Mining, up 2% after hours. We'll have to wait and see. That's a negligible move. After hours, you can't really rely on it. Waste Management down 5% after hours. We know this stock is garbage, right? It's total trash. I have to look at their earnings report. Does have that buy point there at 214.54, so maybe we get that tomorrow. Who knows? And ALGN, this was the implied volatility here was 9%, one of the highest ones for the day, and it's to the downside 9%. So this is the that replaces your what do they call those things? Not dentures. The things you straighten out your teeth with. They align your teeth. Okay. Anyway, that's it for me. Tomorrow's another day. The market has no memory. It certainly could rally back up tomorrow, but like I said, just keep an open mind, be flexible. Don't get too down because the market's down. We got to embrace lower prices. We're going to get some quality stocks at lower prices. I don't know how low they're going to go, but like if you're interested in NVIDIA, would you rather buy it at 140 or 114? So of course you'd rather buy it at $50, but if you miss that opportunity, now you're looking for an opportunity to get into NVIDIA. Maybe it'll give you a chance here, form a little base. So that's what I'm looking for, is to look at these quality stocks and maybe they'll give us a chance to get in after these big runs. So anyway, that's it for me. Thank you for watching at mcstockcharts.com. We never give up. Hang in there, everybody.